or you were this, or
This is Margaret Olds welcoming you to our show. We are sponsored by RSVP, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, a part of Mature Services. A kaleidoscope, according to the dictionary, offers a constantly changing group of bright colors. This is what we hope to achieve with these programs, highlighting interesting organizations, activities, and people in our viewing area. After these messages, we'll be right back to meet our guests.
RSVP of Summit County has been making a difference in our community since 1972. RSVP volunteers are increasing the quality of life by participating in programs and organizations that provide important services to the community. RSVP matches personal interests and skills with opportunities to serve. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597, extension 166.
Today, our guests are from the Boy Scout Council of America, John Starrett and Dennis Fargo, who are just finishing up a wonderful year of a celebration of 100 years of the Boy Scouts of America. And what kind of events did you do to celebrate this wonderful event?
Well, we had a few things planned. We actually had events throughout the year. One of the really neat events that I think we had was in all the communities, whether it was Medina, Summit, or Portage County, we planted a tree. And what that was, it was like the legacy for the next 100 years, which I thought was a really neat way to celebrate the 100th anniversary. One of the other things that we had what was called the Jamboree, and in late May we had about 3,700 to 3,800 people out at Camp Manitowoc, which is our council camp out around Peninsula, Ohio. Mm-hmm. They did a variety of different things, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and our venturing program. So those were some of the things we had. John, do you have?
We just finished up just this past weekend. We had an event at the Summit County Fairgrounds. It was a Scoutorama and Pinewood Derby. We had 350 Cub Scouts signed up for the Pinewood Derby, and they raced pretty much most of the morning. We started checking them in at 8:30 till almost 10 o'clock, and then everybody was entered in the computer, and we raced from 10 o'clock probably till about 1:30, and had different places, first, second, and third place in all the different districts that we have there in the council.
Tell us, what is the Pinewood Derby? Perhaps somebody is around who doesn't know what it is.
Well, the Pinewood Derby, believe it or not, the kits that they still have today for the Pinewood Derby are the same kits that they had back when I was a Cub Scout. So the kits are exactly the same. It's a block of wood that you carve it, paint it, however you like, and you race it down a track. Well, back in the day when I was a Cub Scout, you used stopwatches. And now it's all computerized so that when they start at the top and head to the bottom, it'll actually break it down for you and tell you how many tenths and hundredths of a second you are ahead or behind the other car. So it's come a long way in the years since I was a Cub Scout, but the boys, it's one of those things that even as older Scouts, you still always love to do, the Pinewood Derby.
What other changes have taken place besides computerized races since you guys were Boy Scouts? Well, you're still Boy Scouts.
We're still Scouts. Probably one of the newest things is the change in the uniform. The change in the uniform that you look, the last uniform change they had was about 1978, and they went from the olive drab to the khaki shirt and the olive drab pants. And then they kept the same colors basically, but they went to, for our 100th anniversary, they basically went to a little bit baggier shirt, baggier pockets. They even have this pocket here on the right side or the left side, which actually has a hole in it for a MP3 player or an iPod. So I mean, those are a few of the different changes. We're trying to take scouting into the next century, and hopefully we'll be able to do that with a bang. So.
One of the things that I thought was interesting about bringing them into the new century is the fact that Steven Spielberg developed a merit badge for cinematography, which, you know, a lot of kids these days have little home videos and everything, and I thought that was an interesting badge for them to earn because it's a possible career for them.
That's true. All the different things that, like you say, with cinematography, with all the different computer programs that are out there nowadays, and that you can actually edit things on your home computer and everything, it's very worthwhile. And like you say, it could be one of those things that the boys would learn as a scout that could become their vocation. There's a lot of times, I think, with all the different merit badges that are offered, that scouts oftentimes will come upon something that they'll might be doing the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm. Many popular people, famous people, have been Eagle Scouts. I understand that Eagle Scouts even went to the moon.
They did, and Gerald Ford, a lot of people don't know, is an Eagle Scout also.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
And I also understand that quite a large number of volunteers after the Katrina hurricane were Boy Scouts in the past and were volunteers, and also in the Senate there are a number of people who were Eagle Scouts. Yeah. So there's a large impact of Scouts all over the country in various careers and episodes. So what else do you do in your local districts?
Our local council it's comprised of 6 different districts. Our local council, the Great Trail Council, we cover Summit, Portage, Medina, and northern Wayne County. So in those 3.5 counties that we serve, there's 6 different districts. The district that I serve is called Old Portage, and that's taken from the portages that the Indians used to use with their canoes and stuff, which covers West Akron, which includes Kenmore, Copley, Fairlawn, Bath, and Richfield. So that's the area that I cover. And then right below me is
the Lakes District, and the lakes being the Portage Lakes, and it's all of southern Summit County and Doylestown. And you know, some of the things that you know they do there, we as a district we plan like Klondikes, which will be coming up here in January, and we boys go out, and the mothers all think we're crazy, but we go out and camp in 2 feet of snow, and usually I think last year it got down to 4 below, and go out and race our sleds and do scouting events from fire building to lashings, knot tyings, even fun stuff like axe throwing or something like that. So we do we have a lot of neat stuff planned throughout the year, and through our districts, our 6 districts, we have activity committees that plan a lot of that stuff. So.
How do boys link up with the Boy Scouts? If they want to join, where do they go, or who do they call? Or
matter of fact, if you go on the net and type in joinscouting.org, if they type that in and tell them plug in their city and the zip code that they live in, it will actually come up and tell them if it's a Cub Scout unit that they're looking for, it'll tell them which one's closest to them, or if it's a Boy Scout unit, it'll tell them which one's closest to them, or the number that they had preceding the program here. There's an 800 number they can call. They can call our council office, and we'll be glad to put them in touch with a unit that's close by for them too.
Who sponsors the units, or how do you find enough leadership for all the troops?
Most of the units are sponsored by churches. So there's probably about 80 to 90% of our PACs, troops, and venturing crews are all sponsored by churches. Some are sponsored by fraternal orders, whether it could be like an Eagles or a Moose or something like that, like service clubs. So those are the people that usually sponsor the units. Now, as far as volunteers, that's one of mine and John's responsibilities is finding volunteers and finding good volunteers and getting them trained. And a lot of the place you find that is when we have school nights to join scouting, which is our Cub Scout age youth from 1st through 5th grade, and we go in and talk to the boys in their classrooms or pass out flyers. Then when they come with their parents, scouting's a family-based activity, especially Cub Scouting. So it's usually a strong arm there or a strong arm here. that usually gets them in. And usually what I tell people is it's the most fun you'll ever have with your son. And a lot of times you'll get parents that, we're all busy these days, and they look at you like you're totally crazy. Well, guess what? They come back to you a couple years later and go, Dennis, John, you were right. This is the most fun we've ever had. And it's really a neat process to watch, and that's where we get a lot of our volunteers, is through the parents that their sons want to get into a great quality program that we call scouting.
You mentioned the venturing program. You want to speak about that? Because I think that's kind of an interesting...
Sure. Venturing is boys and girls 13 years old through 20 years old, but out of the 8th grade. So it's any youth in high school or past that it's basically a co-educational program that the Boy Scouts of America developed about 11, 12 years ago to take care of what does a child or student do after they get out of high school. And we've developed this program we call Venturing that's co-educational scouting, and it could be based around a bunch of different things. It could be based around careers, or it could just be based around having fun, going whitewater rafting, rappelling, whichever. And it's a program that it's real flexible because we've got a couple venturing programs that they could go out and do high adventure stuff, but they could also get advancements and things like that. And there's always, just like in any of our other programs, there's always great places for leadership opportunities also. So that's what our venturing program is.
And even if you have not been a scout before, a lot of times people think, well, I've never done something like that before, would I be able to help? Absolutely. We're always looking for people that want to volunteer and help out. In working with youth, we're there to develop them, the character, citizenship, fitness, all those different things that make scouting what it is. So we're always looking for more volunteers from every avenue of life.
So Margaret, if you're not busy.
Well, you have a strong leadership training program, don't
Absolutely.
you, for your adult leaders and your youth leaders. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. The one of the things, when you talk about Cub Scouting is basically mostly family-based activities. But when you get into the Boy Scouting program, one of my new Scoutmasters, he was asking about, what does he need to do as a Scoutmaster? And I said, one of the hardest jobs in the Boy Scouts of America as a volunteer is a Scoutmaster. And the reason being is because what you're trying to do is take a young man and make him into the leader of tomorrow. And that's one of the most difficult things to do, is the growth of a leader. And when the boys join Boy Scouts at 10 and a half or 11, they get in just as a scout, and then they'll usually have a patrol leader, which is usually a 12 or a 13-year-old boy, and then you'll have a senior patrol leader who is basically is the leader, the youth leader of all those boys in the troop. And they, as a leadership council, have to figure out what they're going to do, where they're going camping, how they're raising the money, who's doing the cooking, who's making the menu, and things like that. And that's all done through the youth leadership. And it's just basically the Scoutmaster's responsibility to help that young man to figure out how is it you lead people. And there's a lot of training courses for that. One of the ones in the youth program is called National Youth Leader Training, which is our NYLT program. And then on the adult side, we have what's called Wood Badge. And the beads that I'm wearing around my neck here is Wood Badge, and that's an intensive adult leader training. So, which is people usually go for a couple of weekends, or sometimes we have a week-long course that adults take, and it's a very good course. And a lot of companies have actually taken that course and have their employees take the course because of the leadership qualities that it instills in leaders and their
It's something that you can apply to every area of life, whether you're in scouting or out of scouting. It's one of those things that it just teaches you a lot about leadership and how better to perform leading a group of people.
I'm sure that's important too on some of your adventuring programs. Talk about some of those. I've heard about the Philmont Ranch and all the different kinds of activities that the boys do. Elaborate on that for us.
Well, if you talk about leadership, and one of the best ways to show leadership is in adversity. I mean, it's real easy to lead people when times are really great, but one of the best ways to be in an adverse situation is be out at Philmont Scout Reservation or down at our sea base or even up at Canoe Base up in the Thousand Lakes. But when a young man goes out, we call them treks, out to Philmont, and they go on a week-long trek, and you're out basically with what you have on your back and heading out for a 50-mile trek or a 100-mile trek or whichever, leadership abilities definitely come out and come to the forefront on how you're going to be leading people and and things like that. So that's in Philmont in Cimarron, New Mexico, which it's over 100,000 acres, which is just, I got the opportunity finally after being in Scouts for 31 years last year to go out and experience it, and it's just awe-inspiring.
Is it rugged? I mean, are you in tents, or how do you survive?
Actually, I wasn't. I was at a training course, so but I was in a tent. I was in a tent, but the tent is like, to me, the tent that I was in, it had electricity and a nice cot, so it was like a.
But not when you're out on the trek.
Right, it was a Hilton to me. But yeah, when the boys actually go out there with, when they call it a trek, they actually go out for a week long. I was out there for a week long training course, but they actually will go out and they basically will stay in tents out on the trail and learn how to to all the adverse conditions out there, whether it's rain or whatever, or whether it's putting your bear bag up in a tree so and not too close to your tent so the bears don't wander by your tent at night. So but yeah, it's very rugged, and it's just backcountry of the hills of New Mexico.
Sounds like a good experience. How do the boys pay for that? Do they have to raise money to take those trips?
They'll do it different ways. Sometimes the units themselves they'll have dinners and stuff for for the boys to raise money, and other times the boys themselves will figure out ways they'll have car washes and stuff to to help offset the expense of the trip. And naturally, each trip that you take is going to be unique and as to what it's going to cost. We have units that are already planning trips for 2 years out to go to Alaska, and you say, well, 2 years out, why would they plan it that far ahead? But the money that they have to raise to do that, it'll take them a while to accomplish that end. But it'll be one of those things that it'll be a life-changing experience.
Have you ever done trips like that with the boys, or
personally?
When you were in the
I have
Scout?
not had a chance to. Would I love to? Absolutely.
Well, that leads us to another thing. We have lots of popcorn here.
Yeah.
Sell lots of popcorn so you can take the trip. How big a staff do you have for your area?
Office or professional staff, like I say, we have the 6 districts. There's Lakes, Old Portage. There's in Medina, it's called Chippewa. Summit County is called Seneca. Tri-Fires, which is Mogador,
East Akron, Talmadge, and Mogador.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Mocumbus, which is up
Cuyahoga Falls.
Cuyahoga Falls, Stowe area. And then we have a gentleman that is in charge of our Pathfinders district, which is pretty much this inner city Akron and things like that. So that's the professional staff that we have, and then actual support staff and our Scout executive and stuff like that. There's about 15 of us that work down on South Main Street in Akron that serves the whole Great Trail Council. Through that and selling popcorn, and that's how a lot of our popcorn is part of our budget, and our Friends of Scouting program is part of our budget, and we have annually about a $2.4 million budget a year. So that's a lot of popcorn and a lot of asking Friends of Scouting for money. But that's what John was alluding to earlier about the boys setting 2 years aside to go to Philmont or go to Alaska or go to Sea Base or something, and it's the goals that they set and the sales goals that they set for selling popcorn. So a lot of great programs have been put on by young men selling popcorn over the last 30 years, and young women. So
if you've never had Boy Scout popcorn, you need to try it.
Oh,
do.
well, we will certainly
I'm sure
do
you'll
that.
like it.
We will certainly do that. Well, the Boy Scouts of America have a good reputation among nonprofits for being stringent with their funds and not
Definitely.
overspending.
Yep.
And,
Scouts are thrifty.
Scouts are thrifty. That's part of the motto or the slogan or something. I think one of the fascinating things about the history of Scouts is the story about how the man who brought it to the United States was inspired to do that. Someone want to tell that story?
Well,
about the unknown scout?
It's said that he was in England and he was looking for. He was lost and couldn't find his way, and a boy came up to him. He asked him. He said, "Could you tell me how to find?" And he said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You just have to, go down here." And he thought, and he wanted to pay the boy for, helping him out. And he said, "Oh no, sir, I can't take anything. I'm a scout." And he thought, a scout? Just what is a scout? So then he checked into it more and found out about, scouting at that point in time, and Lord Baden-Powell just, having started the scouting movement there in England. And then in 1910, it came here to America. And then 100 years later, right now in 2010, that we're celebrating 100 years of scouting. As this last year, our slogan has been celebrating the adventure, continuing the journey. So it's about what's happened in this first 100 years, but what are we going to do to make scouting relevant for the boys in this next 100 years? To make it something that they're going to want to do, that their boys are going to want to do. It's always challenging, and it's never a dull moment. We have 3 things that we always need to do pretty much every day. And our boss will always say, okay, what's the 3 M's? That's membership, that's our scouts, our Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and venturing. Money, selling popcorn, FOS, raising money for scouting, membership money, and manpower. Manpower, we already talked about, that's our volunteers that we go out and find those volunteers, that people that have time, people that, we always say it just takes 1 hour a week, right?
Yes.
1 hour a week. So if you have an hour, we'll be glad to take it.
Well, that's part of your leadership training.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, what about your continuing the journey? Are there any particular plans that you have? Expansion ideas or new merit badges or?
We do. Actually, this year we actually brought 4 historical merit badges back. That 3 of them actually were discontinued in 1952, and 1 was discontinued in 1992. So a lot of scouts had never seen 3 of them, and that was carpentry, pathfinding, and tracking. And then the one in 1992 was signaling. So, I could have got signaling as a youth, but the other 3 I couldn't have gotten. And so those they brought back, and scouts can earn those until December 31st of 2010, and then they're continually adding new merit badges. They just in the past year added scuba. They also added inventions. They're going to add robotics, and then scouting heritage also. So those are some that are constantly trying to look back at the merit badges that have went away, that a lot of boys didn't take, and maybe have a new twist to them. And that's part of the whole merit badge program. And then you talked about expansion and stuff like that. We talked about Philmont Scout Reservation, and we talked about Sea-Base. About the last 5 years they've been doing a study and trying to figure out where to put our National Jamboree, which they actually just had this past August. And it was being held at Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia. And they wanted to bring it kind of closer into the middle of the country. So about over the past 5 years, they did a study and figured out and found out and got a bunch of land donated. And they also got a $50 million gift from the Bechtel family. So down around the New River Gorge in West Virginia, just south of Charleston, they're going to have, in 2013, they're going to be opening up the new Bechtel Scout, and actually what it's going to be called the Summit. So it's going to be the Bechtel Summit.
They can jump off the bridge. Huh?
They can jump off the bridge, but so you say expansion, and that's one of the things that they're doing because I think that in the study they said about 80% of the country lives within like an 8-hour drive of
Is that so?
of West Virginia. So it's going to be a excellent place to go, and for the boys to basically go, and they don't have to go all the way out to Philmont, New Mexico, or down to Sea Base in the Florida Keys. So it would be nice.
Well, it's certainly been an exciting 100 years, and the past year, I'm sure that you have enjoyed all of the many, many activities. And we're just so pleased that Dennis Vargo and John Starrett were with us today, and perhaps you'll be here again to join us.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you for watching today's view through our kaleidoscope. We hope you enjoyed it and that you will remember our sponsor, RSVP, a part of Mature Services. RSVP offers adults age 55 and over volunteer opportunities in the local community. For more information about RSVP, call the number on the screen. This is Margaret Olds saying goodbye for now.
Since 1971, RSVP has been matching volunteers' talents to community needs. RSVP is affiliated with the Corporation for National and Community Service, a national organization that supports service and volunteering through grant-funded projects. Volunteers organize neighborhood watch programs, tutor children, renovate homes, plant community gardens, assist victims of natural disasters, and serve their communities in many other ways. RSVP offers maximum flexibility and choice to its volunteers as it matches the personal interests and skills of Americans 55 and older with opportunities to serve their communities. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597, extension 166.
Distribution of this program has been made possible through the generous support of the Kaler Law Firm. At the Kaler Law Firm, attorney Jim Kaler helps seniors and veterans who need long-term care keep some of their life savings in the family. For more information, visit www.protectingseniors.com. The mission of the Kaler Law Firm is protecting a senior's life savings.